Hello everyone, welcome to the MIT-ADTU Unplugged series. I'm Dr. Rekha Sugandhi, Director, Office for International Affairs, and we are conducting this series to talk about the different initiatives that we are taking towards international collaborations at MIT-ADT University. And I welcome Dr. Mohit Dubey, Pro Vice Chancellor, Research, Innovation, Entrepreneurship, and International Relations, with whom I'd be interacting today and discussing about the various activities under Office for International Affairs that we have been undertaking for international exposure to our students. Under the Office for International Affairs, we have three focus areas: mobility, research and development, and innovation and entrepreneurship. We would be talking in detail about all of these aspects, and I would be discussing certain perspectives of Dr. Mohit Dubey. So to start with, sir, when we talk about international affairs or international collaborations, the first thing that comes to mind is mobility.
Sure.
And to start with, student mobility is what we imagine. I know there is much more to just the word mobility. Here at ADT, we involve in various short-term and long-term engagements. There are different kinds of mobility that we do, like there are student exchanges, there are internships that we do. We also do semester studies. I would like to understand your perspective on these different initiatives, how these are explored at MIT-ADT University under your leadership.
Sure. Thank you for having me. And it's a wonderful initiative by MIT Art Design Technology University to propagate a lot of these things that we are trying to put together under the internationalization as a banner altogether. As the country is trying to put together the internationalization piece towards the entire higher education sector, MIT-ADT, being the leading university, has taken this initiative where we are trying to put the opportunities for these youngsters and the parents. How do we first give them an opportunity for internationalization at a lower cost but at a better quality? So with that as a background, right, I think you talked about the mobility opportunities for young kids who are watching this. Essentially, as a university, we try to make sure that because as a new kid in the university, we try to expose them towards like a week long to a 6 month immersion programs, which could be for various immersion programs for cultural sensitivity, for exchange of internships, and so on and so forth, leading up to a twinning program of up to 6 months or a semester abroad kind of a thing, where they can probably go to some of these universities and then we'll try to get that experience. So it's essentially giving them an experience, a flavor, a taste of the foreign education. How does it look around, so on and so forth. And you have had that experience of sending some of these kids. So what has been your experience in terms of when we sent these kids to different countries or different universities? What has been your experience with these kids?
When these students come back after their engagement, they have different kind of feedback. One encouraging thing that I understood was that the kind of program that we run gives enough exposure and confidence to our students to go and work with the students from foreign countries and with our foreign partners. That is very encouraging. But at the same time, there are a lot of cultural differences that are that the students get aware of and they're sensitized.
Right.
Like the value of punctuality is one.
The Indian standard time is 30 minutes late always, right?
Correct.
So I think, but the fun is that when they start interacting with each other, there's a lot of this cultural immersion that happens, and we have seen that through the students that we have hosted. For example, the Spain delegation that came up. I think the student to student connection starts right from first year at our university through these kind of small immersion experiences. So that's a good opportunity for these youngsters who are looking at becoming a global ambassador eventually, as the NEP suggests. So these are good opportunities for these youngsters to explore some of these things. What are the places that they can look at if in the first year, for example, if you want to talk about that?
So when we talk about going to a partner university or a partner country, we focus on the program first. So which program do the students study in? We have very few generic programs where student from any program can go and attend the immersion activity. But usually we focus on, let's say, art and design. We focus on countries where these students have more to learn, which adds to their knowledge that they get here. When we talk about technology, the major areas that students look up to is United States and United Kingdom. So there are certain best practices in most of these partner universities that we try to tap on and connect with the best school that we have. Since we have 17 schools and a variety of programs, we try to connect which is the best takeaway that a student can get.
Yeah, I think that also gels with what my experience will have been when I talk to a lot of these leaders. Specifically University of Limerick, the Manchester Met in UK. Some of these foreign countries are also looking up to a institution like MIT Art Design Technology University. How can you add the layer of arts? How can you add the layer of design education? We run these Vedic science school, so there is a lot of interest in some of these Indian knowledge system kind of programs, and the inbound is driven because of a lot of these things, right? So the connections that they make during these smaller immersion programs outbound, it also leads to a lot of these inbound kind of a travel that we are witnessing of late right now.
Correct. I mean, when we do a physical movement, when we go somewhere and interact with people in person, it gives an overall effect. It was interesting to note that very complacent countries like US, the students there wouldn't think of India to come as a destination for a summer school, for example. But because of these added interactions that we've had with them, they now
Right.
have an interest to find out about Indian knowledge system. They want to come
Right.
and experience there. They want to understand the Indian culture.
Right.
It's very encouraging for us because that's very exciting for our students to get that kind of an exposure on
Yeah.
our campus.
Yeah.
It is always desirable to have a physical presence to experience it. But we know for a fact that it is not always possible.
Sure.
It is desirable that each of our students must get international exposure, but there are many constraints in practicality. The first and foremost reason is there is an added expense
Yeah.
and cost involved for travel accommodation. Also, the ever-changing scenario in the geopolitical situation may lead to different visa and other regulations that may hinder the travel. In such situation, what do you think we could do as a practice to still give students that exposure?
Yeah, no, I think the experience is that how do you add the virtual internationalization piece baked into your current thing? And there's also a proposition where they say internationalization at home, right? With given the surge in the cost and these visa rejections. Yesterday I was reading around 61% of the visas have been rejected in US last year. So I think these ever growing challenges are not going to stop. Right, so the layer that we have added in addition to the physical movement is the virtual internationalization, and that is where these options of virtual internship, whether you do the co-creation of the projects and the solutions that we kind of do with University of Miami, for example, and some of the COIL kind of a programs where the collaborative online international interactive learning happens, like for example in our partner with the Netherlands. The students were able to develop these the mobile applications while they were not physically connected to these things. So I think uh, as these challenges which are beyond anybody's control would accelerate, there will be a huge surge in this virtual internationalization as we move forward. And I think we are decently doing good enough in terms of our more connections that we are trying to build to reduce the cost, and also giving these young students an opportunity to work with these virtual projects and some of these internships that we have kind of offered. How many students have kind of benefited in last 1.5 year that you see through these virtual internships?
So in virtual internships, we've had about 4 different kind of engagements, and an average of 12 to 15 students have benefited from the engineering and from the design faculty.
Yeah, no, I think as more and more students will start attracted towards this whole internationalization, the virtual internationalization would pick up its own pace going forward. So I'm very confident about this layer to be going up, as have also got this whole online and digital learning piece added to the university. So this virtual internationalization will pick up going forward, I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure it's getting more and more exciting day by day because new avenues are opening
Yeah,
up.
absolutely.
And because MIT-ADTU is now NAC A grade, it's accredited, and it opens up more avenues for our students in the form of twinning programs,
Yeah.
dual and joint degree programs. What is your take on this? How it would benefit our students? How we can take this forward?
Yeah, I think first of all, congratulations to MIT-ADT University for securing the NAC and A grade in their first assessment cycle itself. And it could not have come at the right point, right? I mean, if you look at the expansion of the overall internationalization, the NAC A grade provides us an opportunity to open up these dual degrees, the joint degrees, and the pathways for these young students. And we have seen some of these, the translational education where the students can do 2.5, 1.5, 3 plus 1 plus 1 kind of thing. So all these combinations, and I'm very excited to share that most of these universities abroad are very open in these days when they look at India as an opportunity, and specifically Pune as an opportunity, right? Within the Pune, when they look at the MIT-ADT University, which is a large multidisciplinary university, right? They are excited to offer even the customized kind of pathways, right? And when you add this whole dual degree and the joint degree, I think it's coming up very well. And then now that it's just the first year of our engagement, so a couple of universities like Binghamton universities or the Drexel University, University of Alabama Huntsville, which is a phenomenal university as far as aerospace and defense is concerned. I think these opportunities for these youngsters to complete part of their education at MIT-ADT University and part of their education in the foreign university not only reduces their cost, but also the quality of education that they get exposed. And this definitely would lead into a lot of these master's programs that they would end up doing, the PhD programs that they would end up doing. So I think it's the joint and the dual opportunities, the dual degree opportunities for our young students will be an added advantage because of this NAC A grade that you mentioned.
It's also interesting to note that when we talk to foreign partners about laying out a dual degree program, we have to discuss in detail about the curriculum from both the ends.
Right.
And it is noted that the kind of curriculum we have framed after a lot of industry intervention and having a very highly empaneled board of studies, the kind of curriculum that has come out is so applicable across US universities, UK universities that we have experienced,
right,
that it becomes easy to launch such programs in coordination of both the curriculum. Also, I would like to note and appreciate that the kind of initiatives that have been taken in the university, like we have the Cambridge Lingua Skill Proficiency Test, which has been made mandatory to all the students in the first year itself. It is a validation that they can carry on lifelong. So having cleared that test enables them to very easily enroll for higher studies in US universities.
Also, the MIT-ADT University's intervention in terms of the language skills, right? Whether it's the French, Spanish, German. I think while the bigger economies like US and UK would have certain restrictions, coming in very aggressively, but these other opportunities, for example, in Japan, for example, in Germany, these areas are opening up, right? So these addition of these skills in language on these different skills, different languages is definitely adding up and are really opening these opportunities for these youngsters to explore their pathway, not just in English-speaking world, but these other universities. They're also world-class universities, by the way. The German universities are fantastic universities. I mean, we had a discussion around the Danish company, the new option that we also kind of have been witnessing, the companies who have a global presence, right? When we talk to these companies, and there are these universities who are co-located within those cities, right? And Pune being a multicultural city in itself, this is a new opportunity that we can see, that if there is a common university and a company's combination, when we start talking to them here, it becomes easier for them to become like a university to university plus university and a corporate kind of a thing. So a tri-party arrangement is also giving a lot of opportunities for internship, for placements, for hackathons. I think that is also a good sign that we are seeing. which is a new kind of an experience that we are all witnessing.
Thank you, sir, for your insights. Uh, while working for the Office for International Affairs, I've been working very closely with the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Cell.
Yeah.
And there have been many initiatives that have been taken by the cell where we collaborate with them to help students get mentoring on entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
about preparing for startup as an alternative for employability.
Yeah.
We have been connecting with incubation centers across borders like the Cambridge University and Babson University. I know you are one person who has been instrumental in developing this ecosystem. I would like to understand the perspective with which you have set this up. What was your vision?
Look, there's a newfound love for this whole Indian innovation ecosystem, and that's why you can see this whole Smart India Hackathon to become the world's largest open innovation challenge in the last 8 years, 7 years, kind of a thing. Taking a cue from what national government wants to do, it was very kind enough for our Pro Chancellor, Dr. Mangesh Karad sir, to initiate some of these thought processes way back in 2018-19, right? And when we kind of started putting these basic building blocks of all of this ecosystem, I think now this is kind of reaping into our discussions where the universities who have the incubators out there for long, when they want to talk about incubator to incubator relationship, right? They also want to talk about can we create something as a startup to startup relationship, right? And when they see that this is an hackathon is a model which has been kind of tried and tested and been kind of solidified in this Indian university context, I think they're very excited about doing a lot of these joint hackathons, right? And we saw that University of Miami hackathon and the Netherlands hackathon that we did. A lot of our students are also excited to start solving the global problems, right? Most of these universities, when you look at, they are not really looking at their own problems. They're looking at the problems which are aligned to these SDGs, which is United Nations statement, right? So this is also an opportunity where India would play a big role, and I think MIT-ADT is very, very sweetly placed in terms of tapping into this whole relationship of how do you connect incubators to incubators, the startups to startups, how do you take our young students, their projects that they are doing out to these other universities that we are interacting with them.
And I think to add to that, we are blessed having different streams on the same campus where we have students from the design faculty, from management school, from engineering and technology and art, where we can have a multidisciplinary team to come together to solve real problems. Because in real problems, you don't have a pure computer science problem, or you don't have a pure mechanical engineering problem. Real problems have different kinds of faculty that have to come together.
And I think that's a very, very important point for the youngsters to note. And my discussions with the ministers from foreign countries also has this point has been highlighted, right? I mean, we are not really an IIT kind of a setup which is focused on technology as such. So and this is where an opening dialogue happens, right? If you are a multidisciplinary university, they are more interested in doing a lot of these things in the creative space, a lot of these things in the media and entertainment space, which they don't get that comfort when they start talking about these very specific single disciplinary institutions. So that's why we can probably talk to them about doing a hackathon in the healthcare space, right? We can through our SBSR, we can do it in the food technology through our SFT kind of a thing. And a lot of these starter the conversation starters are either the design school or the music school or some of these Vedic schools. So I think we have that advantage, and we are very, very better placed to take this lead into these kind of engagements.
I have a very interesting question which I've kept towards the end. And that is that we all know that foreign campuses have started their setup in India.
Yeah.
And while we talk about internationalization of sending our students abroad, we have this development which is very fast paced, and every other day we get a news of a new university setting up. What do you think are the challenges in such a situation?
Well, let me give you some numbers, right? I mean, a country like India, where we have around 1.4 billion people, right? In the higher education system, there are around 4.2 students all across UG, PG, PhD, and postgraduate. 25 crore students are in our school system. We have around 1,200 plus universities, right? A country like US, they have around 4,000 plus universities. right? So in terms of the scale itself, we are lagging behind, right? And I don't see this challenge with one set of universities that you just mentioned, but there's a market for all kinds of universities, and that's why you see very deep pocketed corporates, getting into the setting up the universities, whether it's the Geo, whether it's the Wipros, whether it's the HCL, so on and so forth. There are another set of universities like Nayantas of the world, the Kriyas of the world, the Plakshas of the world, which is a cluster of these CXOs, COs, getting together and trying to build these things. So I'm not really very much worried about it, as far as we know that the market is big enough for all the players to come. But however, the one thing that is very concerning is that now it will create a very competitive landscape, and the student will have a choice of where they want to choose. In every city, in Maharashtra, in Bangalore, in NCR, they will have all the choices in front of them. What kind of university, what kind of course. So it will probably expand. So I'm not really worried about just one set of universities, but the overall landscape is changing, and I'm very excited to look at that. And that's a good part of the competition, right? That's a sign of a healthy competition for universities which have a very legacy like ours group. So I'm pretty excited and look forward to that kind of a competition.
Do you still think there are, the way MIT-ADT University is placed, you think there are opportunities as well because of these?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there is no doubt about the positive sides of the competition, the healthy competition that universities like us have a leeway of 10 years within the university system, right? Where as a group we have like 4 decades experience. So all of that will play out in the next years to come, in the decades to come. So I'm pretty excited about that. The opportunities will only help each other to present our best foot forward. So I'm pretty sure the students are going to have a very fun experience, whether they pick one type of university versus other type of university. And I'm very sure MIT-ADT University will give them a phenomenal experience of their lifetime.
Thank you very much, sir.
Sure.
That was very insightful, and you added to some of my perspective and gave me a wide spectrum to think about and function in the years to come. All right, so with that, we come to the end of this podcast, and the Office for International Affairs that we have discussed about just now is aimed at the overall development of our students, not just within the campus, but to cross the borders and go beyond towards developing global leaders. So thank you very much for
Well,
listening.
thank you, Rekha, for having me, and I wish you all the best to your Office of International Affairs and to the MIT-ADT University. Look forward to hosting some of these youngsters who are going to watch this and look to become a global ambassadors out of MIT-ADT University, not just for the university, but for the country as well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you very much.